Hey guys, I'm Brandon,
I'm Ashley.
and that's Kaiser. um, so we're gonna go ahead and we are wanting to kind of share a little something with you guys, and we're a little nervous. We've never done this before on video, like planning things out and talking about it. So we have something really heavy on our hearts that we want to share with you guys, and we call it our Jubilee. And so really we're just going to kind of introduce to you what Jubilee is, how we heard about it, and what that means to us and what we're doing about it. So Ashley has been the one to really research and look into Jubilee a little bit more. She's super smart like that. And I guess start with how you heard about Jubilee.
Yeah. Well, it was like recap, I guess, about like where we're at now and like how we got here, because it's kind of like crazy how it all came about. So we spent 6 months in Florida, and then we moved to Virginia, and we spent 6 months in Virginia, and then we moved back to Florida. So during TBS and everything, it was such a crazy, like, busy time for you and for me, because I was homeschooling the kids and you were finishing TBS, and then we PCS, and then you got your pilot contract, which is crazy and awesome. And so I really wanted to like pause when we got here and take a moment to like just kind of process like everything that had happened. And like 2020 was a lot to process. Like that was a crazy year for everyone. And so I had an opportunity when we got to the hotel on base, which was like a beautiful hotel and like gorgeous spot, like right on the beach in Pensacola. And I got up, I couldn't sleep because I was super antsy to like go and see the new house and like explore the area and everything, but like you were sleeping in and like didn't feel that great that day, and the kids were sleeping, so I was like, I'm just gonna get up and go take a walk on the beach and go bring my Bible and my journal and like go tackle my scripture writing plan, because I'm like super behind on it because we were traveling and everything was so busy.
Trip down was rough.
Yeah, the trip down was really rough. Like we got in like the worst fight on the way down that we'd had like probably in years. Like
it was
screaming and yelling at each other about stupidest stuff. That was stressful. Ditty moves are no joke, especially when you get lost in the middle of Alabama with no GPS, no cell phone service, and it's dark.
She was driving the van, I was driving the truck. We had the kids, the dog, the car being pulled, and it was getting late. I wanted to see the house.
I did not. I wanted to go straight to the hotel.
And we just, our cell service just went to crap, and
we've been like driving for 13 hours, I think.
And so I ended up taking a back road to go towards the house, but then she didn't want to go towards the house, so we had to kind of like backtail it over.
But I had no choice but to follow you because we were driving together.
So for like an hour and a half, we could not communicate with each other. Like our phones were just not reconnecting, and
no service at all.
Yeah, and then like finally the service connects, and I mean I was a little annoyed, but I thought like she's still there, we're good. And then
I was running out of gas and running out of patience, and the boys were driving with me, and both of their electronics were dead. So then they were really restless and like driving me up the wall because they were extremely annoying, trying to roughhouse with each other in the back seat and very distracting. And I don't drive well at night, and it was dark, and I didn't know where we were going, and it was completely different. I've never been to Pensacola before, and so it was very, very, very stressful. Anyway, so I needed some time to myself to process and to like, I wanted to not miss out on like the joy and the excitement of like Brandon getting his pilot contract, because that's like a huge deal, and like we'll talk about that like in another video and stuff, like about why that's such a like huge significant thing for our family. But so I really wanted to have like some time alone with God and like just to process and like focus. And like also it was like late December when we got here, and I really wanted to like focus on, okay, 2020 was what it was, and I want to focus on, okay, God, like what do you have for us in 2021? Like what do you want of me? What do you want of our marriage, like our family, our kids? Like what do you want for us? And my plan was to go down there and start doing my scripture writing and like really dig in and be like, I need to find my verse for the year, or like my thing that I need to find, like I gotta come up with a word to focus on and like all that. And when I sat down on the beach, I just was looking out over the water and the ocean and how peaceful it all was and how beautiful it was. It was cold and it was a little windy, but it was absolutely gorgeous. I was the only person on the beach, not a single other person at all, like the whole like hour or two that I was down there. And I just like had my worship music like softly playing, and I never even opened up my Bible. Like I just sat there staring at the water and the waves and the sky, and like the sun was like shining through the clouds, and like that, I don't know why, but it just always makes me feel like closer to God, because I just feel like that light is like a representation of like his glory and like his presence. And I just like sat there and enjoyed like being in God's presence and being still for like the first time probably in months. Like, so it was a really like good like feeling. And then like my attention like shifted over to like these little cute little sandpipers that were running in and out of the water and like in and out of the waves, and like how like there's so much crazy stuff going on in the world and like in our own family, like all this stuff, like just moving parts and like everything that we have going on. And like these birds are just here like doing the thing that they do like every single day, same thing, and like just being fed. And
but all that reminded you of
well, and
something.
Then so I sat there watching the birds, and like we're on a military base and everything, and like I was like, I sat on a beach just like this 7 years ago, and I was in a completely different place, like in our life. Like we were in a completely different place in our life. It wasn't like a time of like joy and celebration. It was a time of like mourning and a lot of grief and a lot of sorrow and a lot of pain and a lot of suffering. And I remember looking out same time of morning by myself on a beach in California, watching the birds, and just being like, that scripture came to mind in Matthew about like, if your father takes care of the birds and feeds them, like how much more is he going to take care of you? And like, are you not of more value than they? And I'm like, well, yeah, I hope I'm more valuable to God than a bird. But so, and I know that I am, as is every person. And so I'm sitting there like watching the birds, and I'm thinking about that time, and I realized like it's been this year coming up, 2021 is 7 years like from
when we almost got divorced, and it was just a really rough time in our marriage. And you know, that's when she was sitting on the beach a while back, that was in the midst of all that. And how 360 or 180 we are today, 7 years later. And so now we've been married 14 years. And so February we just 15th. Feel like this is like, so I'm sitting there watching the birds, and I'm thinking about the 7 years, and I'm thinking like, this is like my year of Jubilee. Like, and a Jubilee kind of like had already been in my mind, because we were we are in the Gulf of Mexico now, in Pensacola, and like an hour from us is Mobile, Alabama, and Mobile Bay has this thing that happens. It's like a natural phenomenon they call it a Jubilee, but it's not like the Israelites' Jubilee. It's something totally different. But my grandmother had said that, my Nana, when we said we were moving to Pensacola, and she's like, oh, you have to go see the Jubilee down in Mobile Bay. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because the only Jubilee I ever knew was like anniversaries or celebrations, or like the Israelites that celebrated like the year of Jubilee. And so I was like, oh, okay, so the Jubilee in Mobile Bay is the water recedes and like leaves the bay completely. Like it's like very, very shallow water, very, very quickly. Like within a few hours there'll be like tide, and then there's no water. And then like all of the fish and like the crabs and the crabs and the eels and like whatever is in there is like stuck. And like people go out there with like their baskets and their fish, and they like literally like fill up buckets and coolers. And like I've even read stories of like people putting fish in their pockets and stuff because they had ran out of places to like hold the fish and all that. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool, that's so neat, Jubilee, like that is so cool. That, and like the reason why they call it that is because people all up and down the shore would be yelling like Jubilee, Jubilee, because it's like when you're in Alabama and like you live in the bayou, and like you have to rely on the ocean for food. Back in the day when this whole phenomenon caught on and people started realizing that this happens,
they were like celebrating because that
set
meant
'em
they're
up
gonna
for-
eat,
yeah,
like they're gonna have
absolutely.
food and stuff. And so I mean, can you imagine being out there as a fisherman day after day, and you don't catch anything, or you don't catch enough, and like you're hungry, and then all of a sudden there's this phenomenon that happens, and you have more fish than you know what to do with.
Yeah.
And so then I'm thinking like, okay, this is like our year of Jubilee. Like this is our year of like joy and celebration, and like because it's our 7th year, and that's the same year that the Israelites would celebrate a year of Jubilee.
Yeah.
And so you
And
explain a little about like what is
like,
that for the Israelites?
yeah, based on kind of just what we've read and found out, like the year of Jubilee for the Israelites, it was so think like 6 days, right? And then a 7th day for rest, that Sabbath day. Well, the same thing kind of set up for the years for the Israelites, and the Jews, they called it Shemitah.
Shemitah or something like that.
Something
we're
like
not
that.
Jewish, so we don't know.
Yeah, and we're not experts.
Yeah.
But like pretty much what we found out was during those 6 years, God provided, and He gave them crops and all that stuff. And on the 6th in the 5th and 6th year, they were supposed to kind of save some of that stuff. And then because on that 7th year, they were preparing, and on that 7th year, they would rest. They wouldn't grow crops. They wouldn't work the land. They let the land rest. The
and
people
they rested too.
Rested as well. And like one of the coolest things is like the debts that people had were just like forgiven. And
That's cool because
it was just
Americans
pretty
even
neat.
like do the 7 years of after bankruptcy, like your debt's cleared.
Yeah,
So
and 7's just a cool number. Like
Significant.
7 times 70, like for
Yeah.
forgiveness, and I don't know. So it was just kind of neat learning about Jubilee. And so between her grandmother talking about Jubilee and things that we researched about Jubilee,
Well, realizing that it's our 7th year of like recovery and stuff.
exactly,
And
we
14
just kind
years
of
of marriage.
started making connections. And then we moved, and we're like at a thrift store one day, and when we settled into Pensacola, and we're just looking through like these huge boxes of books, and like out of nowhere we find this. It's just like a random red binder, and I open it up, and
You open the
literally
front
open it
page.
up, and it says Recipe Jubilee. And
we both go,
we're
did
like,
you
we just
see that?
What?
Because you shut it immediately.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it was this page. And we saw it in small little words that said Jubilee.
Jubilee right
and
here.
You opened it up and like shut it. And then we both looked at each other and we're like, did you see that?
what's
Did
that?
it say Jubilee? And so then we grabbed the book back up and like opened it.
Yeah. And it's just a recipe book of like recipes during like in the bayou with Jubilee, and
I
it was
know,
just
but
kind
it
of
was
neat.
like,
But it was
out of
just
all the books that were in that giant giant
Bin.
container,
Yeah.
like hundreds of books in there, you pulled this one out, and I'm like, well, now we have to buy it. Like, so now we have this Jubilee book. Shrimps, crabs, and fish race to the water's edge, and the cry of Jubilee rings up and down the beach. With buckets, baskets, and nets in tow, visitors and natives alike gather a bounty of fresh seafood. So then they made this Recipe Jubilee. This is from 1964. This cookbook was made by the Junior League of Mobile in Alabama, and like it's so cool. It's got like all these recipes in it, which I'm totally gonna try some of these recipes sometime just for fun. And but yeah, it was just like we'd already talked about like, so then after the beach, I was so excited to like tell you about what I felt like God had like said, like, hey, this is our like personal year of Jubilee. Like we need to like celebrate and remember like everything that God has done for us, and like choose to like celebrate and like have joy.
Yeah.
And
And Ashley was like
that.
really enthusiastic about it, and I thought it was just like really neat. And I mean, she's really like good with emotions, and I'm a dude, so I'm just like, yeah, okay, cool, Jubilee. But like as like we just kept seeing these little things come up, or names, or cookbooks or whatever.
It was almost like immediate. Like
cool.
as soon as we like agreed, like, yeah, this is what God is for us. This is our year like of celebration and joy. That like we finally feel like the weight of the last 7 years, that's done. Like
it's like lifted.
We know now that we are in a place of healing, like, and that we are in a healthy place, and a whole place, and like we can say that like with confidence, and like knowing that we're not like faking the funk or anything, like it's real, like legitimate healing has definitely taken place, and like we are like healthier in every aspect of our life now than we have ever been. Like,
and we just want to stand on our rooftops and shout that kind of, which is why we're doing this,
and
but
not in a way to like brag or boast
no,
about
not
us
at all,
but just to show that like I hope that if there's a woman or a guy like that was where I was 7 years ago, sitting on that beach, like in despair and in total agony, and like thinking like I have nothing else to look forward to in my life except for pain and suffering and turmoil and chaos and devastation, and just trying to pick up the pieces and make the most out of this, to know that like in 7 years from now you might be in a completely different place. Like, so hold on, because it can change, like, because God can change it all. And that's what we're trying to like get that point across, is that he can change it all, and that he did for us, and that I fully believe that what he did for us, we're not like mutually exclusive, that he's only going to do it for us. Like, he will do it for you too. And he can do it for anyone who like will put their faith and trust in him.
And these things take time. Like, there's always, you have to work it. It was not an easy journey whatsoever, which is,
but it was worth it.
It was absolutely worth
so
it.
worth it.
I mean, it took us 7 years to get to where we are now, and by the grace of God, like that is because of him. And that's the whole purpose of this, is kind of just to help help people relate to us, and let people know that, like, I mean, active duty Marine, I mean, I was just ready to like throw in the towel with everything, with career, marriage, and I was just like, what the crap is going on? I don't even know. But like, I held in there, and we did what we needed to do, and we clung on to God and his promises. And there were days where I was like, there's no way this is gonna work, and then there were other days where that promise kept true and gave us what we needed to keep fighting. And it's just important that people know that there are other people out there like us who have made it, and who, I mean, I've had so many guys come up to me and ask questions about like, hey, I'm going through this, like, how did you get through it? Or like, what are some things you did? What resources, or whatever the case is. And like, why not share it with more people?
Well, you feel like almost like there's a responsibility for us to share it, because God didn't do it so that we could just like keep it all for ourselves. Like, he did it so that we could be like used by him for his kingdom to like like, it's almost like well I mean, it's like that light of the world thing. Like, he doesn't give us the light so that we can go hide it. Like, he gives it to us so it'll be on display. And like, we want to be really faithful to display it so that he gets all the glory from it. And that's what God's after, is his glory. And so and so anyway, wrapping that up, because this is running long. But so our plan going forward, we'll see how it goes, is to like just make like short videos like this of like each part of our journey, and like from our like newlywed days and our dating and newlywed days to like
entry into the Marine Corps, like
young marriage, like being not newlyweds, but like first baby, second baby, and transitioning from like being active duty to like being a stay-at-home mom, and deployments, and like all the stuff, and then getting to like the nitty-gritty parts of when it really like all went downhill, and like we almost lost our marriage, and like actually did like file for divorce and separate. And then like what did that process look like of reconciliation? Like, when we got back, why did we decide to get back together, and like how did we like put it back together and stuff, and like what that process looked like, because I was very naive and thought we were just getting back together and it was all going to be great and like rainbows and butterflies, and it was not.
It was hard work.
It was not.
It
was not that at all. And so and like what it looked like year by year after that, to like you saw like progress year by year, but it wasn't like an aha moment where it was like, now we're good. It was like, I think we're okay, I think we're okay, I think we're okay. And then, but now we're at the 7-year mark, and I know that we're gonna make it. I don't care what comes at us, like everything. Bring it on. Like, I don't want to fate, but bring it on, because your girl's ready. Like, I've done battle with lions and bears, like that only me and Jesus know about. I'm a seasoned warrior. Like, I'm not intimidated. Bring it on, So
we'll talk about
there
all
goes
of those
the feisty
things. Yeah,
boldness
no, I love it.
coming out.
But we'll talk about all those things and the importance of like community and accountability.
Yeah, all
and,
along the way.
Yeah, so
We're not experts.
we're definitely not.
We're just two people who
Want to
do
share
the best we can
our
to
story.
love God
Yeah.
and love each other. That's all.
And to him, like all the glory
And that's
too,
enough,
but-
thankfully. Like he can use jacked up people like us that get it wrong and still use it, hopefully. So, anyways,
Stay tuned
thanks
for other videos
listening
because it's
and
fun.
watching.
And
Hopefully I won't ramble so much and get better and
we'll
less
get it
awkward
together.
or whatever, but it's okay.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye.